I had never worked in a company bigger than 40 people, and I joined an organization of 65,000. It was 2007, and I knew I was probably making the wrong choice. I felt like I had to do it anyway. I'd gone across the world to Singapore, gotten a fancy degree, paid a lot of money for it, needed to pay it off. And I needed to go to a large organization and do what's expected after you take a fancy degree, right? Go into a big company, make a difference. It took me almost 15 years to undo that mistake. I joined the company, it went fine. I was okay. I managed, I did a good job, I got promoted. But I never felt like I really belonged there. That gut feeling that I had when I joined was the right feeling. A company like that, you're hanging your oar off the side of the battleship and thinking that the direction of the ship is going to move. And for some people, you can get in sync, you can all row your oars together and the company moves. But for other people who have different ideas, it doesn't ever quite feel like you're in sync. By 2013, I realized I wasn't going to stay there that long. And I took a leave of absence to think about it. I never came back. I knew I wasn't going to. My boss was gracious enough to give me the chance to think about it and reconsider. But that process of reconsideration, now 13 years ago, started me to where I am today. I took 3 months. I went back to my home country and I sat and thought about leaving behind this escalator to success that I put myself on. Because when you join a big company, let's be honest, you don't have to be the best person in the world at what you do. You can be slightly above average, and you'll be okay. That's certainly the way we used to think the last 10, 20, 30 years. You'll probably be all right. You're going to be near the top of performance reviews. You're going to get a raise. You're going to keep getting a salary increment. You get a bonus. And wow, don't have to worry about money, right? Money's not the problem. But if you care about something more than money, it starts to feel a little bit hollow. It starts to feel like you're not really sure what you're there for. That's a hard feeling to reconcile. And I spent 3 months on a leave. 2 of those months were spent thinking about how can I leave behind something I fought so hard to get to. I got the degree, I got the job, I got the success. And if I just stay right there on that escalator, I don't have to worry about money. I don't have to worry about security. I'll probably be all right. Even if I get retrenched. There are other jobs out there. I've got great experience. It's a brand name. I'll be fine. By the 3rd month, something new came into my head. I realized I don't need to replace that salary. I only need enough money to live on. I need enough money to meet my basic needs. And if I'm betting on doing something different, if I'm betting on myself, that's the number. It's not the big corporate salary that matters, it's a number that allows me to live. And that freed up my mind to think about what I really want to be doing. In 2013, I left. I didn't come back to that job after the leave of absence, and I started my own business. That's 13 years ago. I built something. I built up people. I hired people. I did a bad job. I hired people wrong. I made a lot of mistakes. I built a company, it did well, then it didn't do well, then I raised money, then I made money, then I lost money. Pretty standard journey, right? When you're on your own, that's how it goes, up and down and all around. But what I realized along the way is that was something that taught me more than my corporate career ever had. It taught me that none of this stuff matters. That in the end, we're solving for something different. And it took me another 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, beyond COVID, to really figure out what to do with that information. I built the company got kind of acquired, shall we say. It was pretty much acquired out of ashes, out of failure, but it got acquired on paper, it was good. I joined another company, we grew from 40 people, grew to 200 people. Suddenly, I was in a big organization again. Not huge, but big. And it was interesting because I could start to feel where the pressures sat, where things started to feel like they did when I was in that mega organization of 65,000. I still enjoyed it. I loved pieces of what I was doing, but I could feel the fit still wasn't quite right. And then I started to design my life. I started to think differently. I started to think not just, hey, something doesn't feel right, let me try something different. But what is it that doesn't feel right? What's going on that is causing this feeling in my gut? And I decided, must be the travel. I was traveling a lot. I was working, I was on the road all the time, a lot of hotel rooms, a lot of very boring one-person meals. You get tired of seeing your friends in other cities if you have friends in other cities, and they get tired of seeing you because you say, hey, I'm in town, and they say, yeah, but you'll be back next week, you'll be back next month. No need to catch up this time, right? And you start to realize, well, where do you live? Airport lounge. That's not it. So I said, okay, I'm going to join something local. I'm going to stay in Singapore for a while. This was after COVID. It seemed like a great idea to not travel so much anymore. And so I moved to a local organization. Brilliant. It was a startup. But it was a startup that was backed and funded by a $300 billion corporation. Not quite your typical startup. And I watched and realized the mistake that I made as I saw the bureaucracy start to set in, and I saw and felt where I'd gone wrong again. And it was only after that that I realized what life design really means. Life design isn't about career. Life design isn't about anything that you can put your finger on until you've lived through it. It's about realizing the trade-offs and choices that you're making. And in Singapore, I dare say we had trouble with this. So many decisions feel like they're made for us, from PSLE all the way through. You go through, you follow the expected path, you need one job, you get married, you need 2 jobs, well then you need a helper. You need somebody to help take care of the kids. Once you have that, then, well, the kids are going to have to go to bed later because you're not going to see them otherwise. And that's not nice. Or the helper raises the kids. Every decision becomes a domino that leads you into another place until you break that pattern and think about a different design. That's what I mean when I talk about the escalator. Stepping off that escalator requires you to decide, what do you really need to survive? What are your basic needs? And what is the most important thing? For me, I chose a different path again. Even startups, which I love working with, can be the wrong path. Family comes first. Trying to prioritize how you make money is more important than how much money you make. And I made the choice to work with startups from outside rather than inside, to prioritize blending my time between family and the work that I can do. That's not an easy path. People talk about double income, no kids, right? That's the easy way to do it. We've tried double kids, no income. That's a lot harder. But it is rewarding, and if you believe in what you're doing towards the end, I think it actually can pay off. What I do now, I work with startups, I work with companies to try to make organizations that are better in terms of how they treat people and how they organize, so that people who have that feeling in their gut maybe have hope that there's a place that fits for them. And I work with people. I work with people who are going through these transitions, who are feeling this pain because they've been laid off, because they've realized that whatever they're doing just doesn't feel right. And we talk through this life design process because it's something that took me almost 15 years to figure out for myself. But I think there's value in it for everyone. And I can talk about it for hours, but we only have 10 minutes, so that's all I'll say for today. Thank you.